Hello, my name is Dr. Josh Lange. I'm co-founder, CEO of Synergetics Education, formerly Advanced Language Institute. Now, what I'm here today to discuss with you is a brief overview. This is for law firm partners, senior associates, or anyone else who manages a team of lawyers that typically will write individually, but also have to write multiple author documents. Okay, we know that this has been a big problem for a long time with law firms and lawyers, and they never get it right, even if the law firm has its own style guide. So I'm going to show you a technique that you can build and set up in 5 minutes at your own law firm with your own team, your own department, and your own associates that will immediately improve multiple author documents and help you to be more consistent in your editing and documents. So let's go ahead. So Synergetics Education, we work with 20 of the top 100 law firms around the world. We help them in mostly in legal writing, but also in other areas. Let's take a look. Let me move that camera. Let's take a look at an example. Whose style do we use? So for example, the style guide might have this style in it. But then if you're writing in English, even if you have an English style guide, it might be inconsistent with what you yourself believe should be true. So for example, the fee for our legal advice is $11,550 US and 50 cents. Now, of course, you might see some language errors in this, but mostly these are style errors, and the style can be correct in two ways. It can be correct in multiple ways. It depends on who's writing it and what perspectives that they're writing from. So the issue is being consistent. So for example, what we see here is some inconsistencies in the space between the number and the dollar sign. We see some inconsistencies in the German method of numeracy, writing the full stop and the comma here, versus the English method of having the comma between the thousands and then the full stop at the cent marker. We have a question of comma. Do we have the comma after the VAT or not? Now, then we have the question of the spacing between things like the dollar sign and the percentage key. And then we have other issues that we cover in our legal writing workshops, which are 1.5 hours to 3 hours. And we guarantee that within that time, your associates and your team will improve their legal writing. And now we've been working also with AI and large language models to ensure that your team can write and use these tools to improve their own legal writing, but also to, again, save a lot of time and be a lot more accurate, which, again, is going to increase your firm's reputation. Also, billable time, because the more time that you save on the editing process, that means the more billable time that you have for the projects. And that's why people love Legal Writing Coach, and they love us. So let's get right to it. So we know that there's inconsistencies, and this probably gives you a headache as a partner all the time. And then you have to train your associates, and you have to say, oh, well, or your interns or whoever, you have to say, no, this and this and this and this and this and this. You got to change this and you actually are doing that over and over again. And what's happening is it's wasting your precious time as well as the associates. And in the end, the product doesn't look nice for the client unless you use a lot of extra time. Now, one of the keys to translation, which again, we're going to cover translation briefly, then style guides, and then what we call an edit sheet. Okay, so just covering translation very quickly. The thing about translation that you will want to have is a quality rubric, and this is going to then help you to formulate your own style guide expectations. Meaning, so when somebody translates a document, let's say an associate translates a document from German to English, they'll use a translation software. The software will give use certain words, certain framing, certain punctuation. They will then edit that, hopefully, and then they will give you the product. The partner will assess it, see if it's consistent, and then give it back. It goes back and forth. So, but what happens there is there's no training of the associate. You see? So they have to learn by doing and learn through all kinds of errors and problems and issues and over again. But you can simply fix this by creating a rubric for the translation quality and then giving them a feedback by points, or saying, oh yeah, well, this is excellent, and then telling them why. And if you have multiple associates working on different translations and things like that, they can then learn from each other based on your random evaluation of one or two of their translations. In that way, you might spend 10, 20, 30 minutes on one detailed analysis, but then you'll have a good tool and template to show all of the other associates and to help that one associate improve for the next time. Okay, so translation is one key. And you'll also start to notice in the person's translation or in the machine-assisted translation, you'll start to notice some inconsistencies with your own writing style, your own punctuation, and things like that. And what you'll want to do is create a set of rules, which we call a style guide, or what I'm going to show you an edit sheet to simplify this process, okay? So let's go back to style guide. When we help law firms create their own style guide, and we've helped some of the leading law firms in the world create their style guides, what we do is we give them a set of categories, and then we give them some examples of what we mean by that category, and then we have their partners analyze and say, oh, I keep seeing this, and this is how I write this, and this is how I write that, and then we help them to put that into a style guide. One of those style guides that we look at for producing this is the Adobe Legal Department Style Guide. They have a very well-written style guide that's open access also for the public to view, so we're not breaking any intellectual property or copyright issue laws here. Now, take a look at how they make their style guide. You have the principles behind the style guide. Okay, that's very important. And then you have like cohesion and conciseness and so forth and so on. Then you have the template format. This is typically called branding guidelines. Okay, so your branding is going to have specific things regarding your corporate logo, your font, your line spacing, and so on. So you want to include that in your style guide at the beginning, because that's going to help all of the colleagues, not only the associates, but also your marketing and human resources and anybody else that has outward facing documents towards the public, to be consistent with that branding. And that's a huge deal nowadays, and people are paying attention to that. The second thing is your general conventions of language, and those are going to be English language conventions, like whether to use a comma or not after a greeting. Some people do, some people don't. How to abbreviate things, how to use bold, how to italicize different things. What's the date format, right? Like, so for example, is it the day in numbers or written out in letters? Is the month in letters? Do you use TH? We're going to look at a few of those items just briefly in the style guide. Now, and then you have the conventions for agreements and templates, and that's going to be your contracts, that's going to be your clauses, your provisions. How do you address the parties? How do you look at the background? What are the agreed terms that you're going to agree on? That's a key to having that consistency, okay? So you want to have your own style guide. Now, then you have a lot of details for clear writing, in word choice, in provisos, in conditions, and things like that. So you can use that as the Adobe as a template. I can send it to you, or you can search online for the Adobe Legal Department Style Guide, and you can copy that yourself. But then what's the problem? The problem is you might use something different. You might disagree. Now, you can train all of the lawyers at your firm to use your style, or what's most likely is that there's another department and another practice area of law in your law firm, even if you're a small law firm. And so each partner is going to use their own style. That's where we get into a lot of problems, you see, and I'm going to show you how to fix that right now. So here we are back in the style guide development template that we create. You can do this. You can use the categories. You can make it yourself consistent, okay, across your firm, and then you can produce a document. You can also ask for our assistance. We'll do a little workshop. We'll do some training for your associates to help them maintain consistency, to teach them some basics of style, structure, tone, appropriate tone, and concise usage and style. So we'll make sure that they're all fixed up and that they improve considerably within 1 hour. But if you don't want to take that route and you prefer to go the cheaper route, then you can make what we call an edit sheet. Now, the edit sheet is going to include all of these same areas of language that are included in a style guide, except it's not the firm's style guide, it's your style guide. So if you're the partner or if you're the senior associate and you're directing a working group that's working on a multi-author document, a pleading or whatever it is, then you'll want to have consistent style, especially if these are people not only in your own law firm, but across multiple countries, jurisdictions, law firms, so forth and so on. And we can't say because somebody has a different style than us that it's wrong, that I'm right and they're wrong. And there's reasons for this. One of those things, for example, is when we look at punctuation, capitalization, bold, italicize, dates. How do we write dates? Okay, I might write dates differently than you. There might be different conventions in my country, for example, the United States, and then Malta, which is a European country. Malta will use a European standard, and or Britain or somebody else, they might not use the TH behind the date. But if we have in one place the date at 24 January 2007 and another place the date 24th January 2000, it's inconsistent. So what we want to have is a style, a consistent style with all these different areas. And so these are all the different areas. And what we've done is we've simplified this into a edit sheet. And this was developed by our colleague, Chris Jensen, who's known as a legal writing coach. He's an expert, one of the world's leading experts in practical English usage for legal context, published by LexisNexis multiple times, and he's a real hero in the area of legal writing. He likes practical, simple implementation tools that increase the billable time while increasing your accuracy and the overall quality of your work. So we're really happy about Chris Jensen allowing us to teach this and give this away for free in this course here. It's a simple tool. Very simple. All you need to do is look at this. A, B, C, D. That's it. Alphabetical order, half a page on a Word document, or one full page, and then basically, as you're writing, as you're drafting, as you're doing stuff, you have this out. And you start to take notes on your style particulars. And then basically, you then add these here. I like to write email with a little e and, I like to write email with a little e and then mail. I like to put a hyphen between e and mail. I like to write the email with a little e and a big M, mail, right? I like to write the email with a little e and a hyphen and a big mail. There's so many different ways to write the word email. Well, we need to consider one. And the one that we want to consider is whichever one the partner uses, not which one the style guide uses, because two partners at the same firm might use different styles on this, okay? And they're not going to change. They're not going to conform to the style guide. So instead of making a style guide, start with making an edit sheet. First thing you do, make one for yourself. Know thyself, as Plato says. Be consistent. Second thing, if you're an associate or you want to train your associates to mirror your style, then you teach them give them this video or teach them yourself about how to make an edit sheet. And then you say, well, take a look. Whenever you're writing the next document, pay attention. When there's a different way of doing things, or if you would write something different than me, pay attention to my way of doing it, okay? And because I want you to be consistent with my style. I'm the law firm partner, I'm the senior associate, I'm the lead author on the document. It's my name going out as the lead author, so we're going to use my style. And that's the easiest thing to do, is that the associates can make their own edit sheet and then know thyself, recognize their own style, and they can have an edit sheet for you. That edit sheet they can create in the situation. So as they're doing an editing or a drafting of a document, and then something comes to mind, or they see something in the document that could be inconsistent, then they write it down and say, oh, well, partner John writes email like this, or he puts a.m. or he puts table 1 or trade in any of these, for examples here, or again, all of these different areas that are typical common inconsistencies that we've seen, again, in our 40 different countries that we work, and over 50,000 lawyers, 20 of the top 100 law firms. We see these same things, issues every time. Capitalization, British or American spelling, headings, how you do headings, how you do symbols, numbers, currencies, and then certainly terminology related to law. All this can be fixed within a few documents that you use, okay? And all in real world practice. So you don't have to do an extra training for this. Yeah, I mean, if you want a training from us, you can definitely have for many other things, but this you can implement in your firm right away. It's as simple as that. Be consistent. Tell your associates to have one of these edit sheets for each partner they work for. So for example, if a person works under two partners, one in IT, one in criminal law, for example, then you'll have the associates can make an edit sheet for each partner. Okay, so then when they're doing a document, working on a document that's working for the IT partner, they're going to use that person's style specifics. And when they're working for the criminal law partner, they're going to use that person's style specifics. And so that's the simplest way to do it. You don't need a style guide. I would say the firm style guide, if you have one, and all the major firms do have it, is secondary to the partner's style. The partner that you work for, you want to be consistent with their style. But you also want to make sure that the document is consistent if it has multiple authors. So you're going to have to choose these things. And then you can simply find them in the document. So for example, e.g., anything like related to e.g., you can find in the document, and you can see if the different authors made it inconsistently. And then bam, you can just fix it all up. You can replace it in Word in 1 minute. I'm not going to show you today. If you take one of our workshops, I'll show you, but you can just replace it in a second and have it consistent throughout. But you need to know what the preferred style is for each item, okay? And that's all for today. I'm not going to show you any more, because that's definitely enough to increase your accuracy, decrease your editing time, and ensure that all your documents are consistent for every single associate and across your firm and all the other firms and colleagues that you're working for. So I think that's pretty good for 10 minutes. And we have a lot of great courses, workshops, training. We can do everything as general as basic legal writing to advanced merger and acquisition, contract drafting, arbitrations. And we, again, help you using the most sophisticated and most current tools to improve your legal writing, legal vocabulary, legal speaking, and so forth and so on. So I want you to check us out at synergetics.us/law. And if you like what we do, then get in touch. You can get in touch or have your human resources get in touch with me personally at josh@legalwriting.eu. Now, if you go to legalwriting.eu, we have a lot of free resources for you and your associates and students and anybody interested in law. So that's one of the sites that we manage. And you can contact me either at synergetics.us or at legalwriting.eu. Thank you very much for your time. I'll let you get back to it, and make sure to write me and tell me how consistent you are now with your documents. Have a great day.